Hello, ShortHandTom here. In my engine videos, I speak of machining rough castings using a lathe and a milling machine. This is a milling machine. It is a sturdy drill press with a movable table. The table can be moved in both horizontal dimensions using these hand wheels. Both hand wheels have dials marked in 1/1000th of an inch increments. The dials have numbers 0 to 100, so each full turn moves the table 1/10 of an inch. In the vertical dimension, the milling machine chuck can be advanced in 1/1000th of an inch increments using this hand wheel. My video will show you how a rough casting is surface drilled, threaded, and fit together. It shows how to make a fine flat surface on uneven sand cast metal. It shows how to locate assembly holes and screw positions exactly and easily. It shows how to thread a tap hole without breaking the tap. It shows how parts are made to fit together perfectly in assemblies. Please enjoy and learn from the following video as I explain the machining and fitting of the valve chest casting for the PMR 1880's steam drilling engine casting set 1B1. I've set up the valve chest casting in the milling vise, and using a small machinist square I checked to see that it was sitting true in all three axes, and it is. It's a very good casting. The sides are parallel at right angles to each other, and I've helped that along by a little bit of filing a flash here and there. But it's a good casting and it's sitting true in the milling machine vise now. Now I'm going to mill a clean surface on the valve chest boss using a mill whose diameter is wider than the boss. In this case, 5/8 of an inch. So here we go with milling a clean surface on the valve chest boss. And we'll advance 5/1000ths of an inch and take cut after cut till we get a clean surface. And I see that one more cut will do it. And I'm going to reduce that to 3/1000ths. And I think maybe the other 2/1000ths more. And there we have a nice cleanly machined surface on the valve chest boss. And there's a look at the cleanly machined surface on the boss. With the help of my locator pin and a dot cast into the front of the casting, which I put a little pencil mark on, I've located where to drill the valve chest to accept the boss on the valve chest packing gland. And first I'll drill with a center drill, then with an 1/8 inch drill all the way through, and then only an 1/8 of an inch deep with a 1/4 inch drill to accept that boss on the valve chest packing gland. Here we go with the center drill. And there we have our center hole drilled. Now we're going to drill through with a 1/8 inch diameter drill. And there we've drilled through with the 1/8 inch drill. Now we're going to drill with a 1/4 inch drill 1/8 of an inch deep. And I've marked the drill with some tape for 1/8 of an inch depth of actual drill, not counting the conical point. So now we're going to drill with the 1/4 inch bit, 1/8 of an inch deep. I've located where to drill and tap the first mounting hole for the valve chest packing gland using my locating pin. And I see that there's an even space all around the pin with the part held in a position that I like, and that it doesn't lift the part so it's not jamming in the long direction. Here we go, center drilling mounting hole 1. And there we've center drilled mounting hole number 1. Here we go with drilling the tap hole for the 540 thread with the number 38 drill. And there we've drilled the tap hole for the 540 thread. I've put some Tap Magic thread cutting oil on the 540 tap, and now I'm going to cut the 540 thread with the starting tap. And I'll back it off a 1/4 turn and go forward again. And we're bottom right there, so I won't go any more. It would break that thread or break that tap. So I'll back it off. And then next I'll tap the hole to the bottom with the bottoming tap that doesn't have a big point on it. Now I'm going to finish the 540 thread with the bottoming tap that will cut thread all the way to the bottom of the blind hole. And that feels like we're at the bottom of that thread with the bottoming tap. Now, with one mounting screw in place, and using my tapping pin in place of the valve rod, I'm using my locating pin to locate where to drill the second hole for the second mounting screw. Now we're center drilling mounting hole number 2. Now we'll drill the tap hole for the 540 thread for mounting screw number 2 using a number 38 drill whose depth has been marked safely not to go through the casting. And there we've drilled the tap hole for the 540 thread in mounting hole number 2. Once again, I'll put some thread cutting oil on the tap. And I'm going to cut the 540 thread in mounting hole number 2 with a 540 tap now. And I think we're almost bottom there. It feels like we're bottom. That's bottom. If I went any more now, I would break the thread or break the tap, so I won't do that. I'll just back it off. Next, I'll finish that thread with a bottoming tap that will go all the way to the bottom of the blind hole. I've replaced the long pointed 540 starting tap with the square-ended 540 bottoming tap. And now I'll finish cutting the thread to the bottom of the blind hole. And now we're starting to cut the little bit more thread that we can get out of the length of that and depth of that hole. And there we're bottomed. And we've finished cutting the thread. And here we have both mounting screws in place. And I'm proud to say it's free and doesn't bind up, with all parts in place. And those screws are at the center of the mounting holes. And those nuts will be used to compress the packing that will be in there. That won't close all the way. There'll be Teflon packing in around the valve rod to seal it. Of course, when I finally assemble the engine, I will use shorter screws than that. Now I'm going to plane a nice finish on side 1 of the valve chest using the shell mill. And we've just started to touch there, and I'll advance by 5/1000ths of an inch. Take another cut. And I think that maybe 1 or 2 more thousandths will do it. I'm going to go 2 more thousandths and call it done. It's looking very good. And then we've finished side 1 of the valve chest. I'll get you in for a better look at that finish. And there's a good look at the finish on side 1 of the valve chest. And once again, our shell mill has produced a very good finish. Now we're going to plane a nice finish on side 2 of the valve chest using the shell mill. No cut yet, so I'll advance by 5/1000ths of an inch. And there we start our cut. And that's producing quite a bit of finish there. We're cutting a lot with that. We're getting most of it done. It may not take much more. And there we have a finished surface on side 2 of the valve chest. And that finish is just as nice as the first side was. I've mounted my pointer in the milling machine chuck, and the pointer is nothing but a piece of rod with a point ground on it. And I've placed tape on the valve chest casting to protect it from getting scratched when things slide around and when I drill there. So we'll just engage that pointer in a hole of the valve chest cover, and it will slide around and center itself on the point there, and then we'll just use the hand wheels of the milling machine to drive that into exactly where we want it, and know when we drill the mounting hole that's where it's going to be. So that's about right in that direction, and then we'll take it the long way. And we can just position that as nicely as we want and know when we drill there that the mill chuck is centered on that place. So that looks for like a pretty good place for it to be. And then I'll take out the pointer and put in the center drill there, and then drill through for mounting hole number 1. Here we go with spot drilling, mounting hole number 1 for the valve chest cover. Now we're going to drill through with the number 29 bit. And we're through, and we've drilled the first mounting hole. I'm locating where to drill mounting hole number 2 using my conical edge finder. I've pinned hole number 1 with a spare number 29 drill. And since the conical edge finder looks and feels like one piece, it means that my milling machine chuck is lined up over where to drill mounting hole number 2. Here we go with spot drilling mounting hole number 2. And now we'll drill through with the number 29 bit. And there we've drilled mounting hole number 2 through. Now using number 29 drills to pin both mounting holes number 1 and number 2, I'm using my conical edge finder to locate where to drill hole number 3, and see how I can tell when it's lined up, because it will look like one piece and it will also feel like one piece when I get there. So that's how I locate where to drill mounting hole number 3. Here we go with spot drilling mounting hole number 3. Now we're drilling mounting hole number 3 with the number 29 drill. And there we've drilled mounting hole number 3. Now with all 3 of my number 29 drills being used to pin the part in place, I've located where to drill mounting hole number 4. Now that you see how we line up our mounting holes, I'll drill the rest of them off camera. And I'll always use all 3 number 29 drills to pin the part in place before using the conical edge finder to locate the position for the next mounting hole. And here we have a better look at the mated parts. And I've dropped some screws into the holes to show that the mating is good and that part is free, it doesn't bind up. We've located our mounting holes in the right place to mate the 2 parts. The drawings call for us to drill and tap a hole for the inlet pipe 13/32 of an inch behind this mounting hole here, or essentially halfway between these 2 holes, and on the center of this surface, which is a 1/2 inch wide, so it's a 1/4 inch from either side. And now we're going to spot drill that place. And there we've spot drilled the hole for the inlet pipe. Now I'm going to drill through with a 5/32 drill. Now we're through, we popped through there. Now I'm going to drill through with a 7/32 tap drill. Now we'll tap the hole for the inlet pipe. And I've marked the tap because I want to stop short of going all the way through. We're only supposed to have about a little more than 1/8 of an inch of full thread there, so that the pipe goes into a tapered threaded hole which gets smaller and tightens up good. But there we've tapped the hole. Now I'm going to spot mill the area around the hole for the inlet pipe. And there we have a nice place to attach our inlet pipe. And here we have a closer look at the completed valve chest cover, and valve chest packing gland. And I've polished up what will be the top surface so it will look good when it's in place. I'm mounting the cylinder casting in the milling machine vise. And you can see I've protected it with tape, and I'm using pieces of paneling which are reasonably flat and true at the front and back to protect the machine surfaces. It's sitting down here on a piece of the same stock, and because I have parallel machine surfaces at the front and back here, when I tighten up this vise it's going to line me up in one direction. But you can see I'm quite cockeyed in the other direction. So to get lined up in the other direction, all we do is this. And we'll tighten up our vise there, and we're lined up in both directions. Now we're going to mate the valve chest to the cylinder. And I'm using a simple conical pointer to locate where to drill the first mounting hole. And if I drill a mounting hole there, I can line up the valve rod with the center of the valve slots that we milled in the cylinder. So I think that's a good place to drill my first mounting hole. Now we're spot drilling valve chest mounting hole number 1. Now we're going to drill valve chest mounting hole number 1 with the number 38 tap drill for a 540 thread. And there we've drilled the tap hole for a 540 thread. Now we're going to cut a 540 thread in mounting hole number 1. You go forward and then you go back a little bit to break the chip. And that thread's cutting very nicely. We're just about bottom there. That's the end of it for that tap. And I'll follow that up with a bottoming tap that has no point on it. Can tap those last few threads. Now I'm finishing the thread in valve chest mounting hole number 1 using the flat bottomed finishing tap. And we'll only cut the last couple of threads. And that's bottom, so I'll back it off, and that completes the threading of valve chest mounting hole number 1. Here I've temporarily mounted the valve chest using a 540 stud, a conical washer that I made out of brass, and a 540 nut. And that conical washer will help to keep the stud centered in the mounting hole. Here I've located where to drill valve chest mounting hole number 2 using my conical edge finder that looks like and feels like one piece when it's lined up. I've drilled and tapped mounting hole number 2, and I put 540 studs and conical washers and nuts into the 2 completed mounting holes, and I'm using the conical edge finder to locate where to drill mounting hole number 3. And I'll drill and tap that. You've seen that before, and I'll show you when I'm done. Here I've again temporarily mounted the valve chest to the cylinder using 3 sets of conical washer, stud, and 540 nut, and locating where to drill hole number 4 using my conical edge finder. We're locating where to drill valve chest mounting hole number 6, and we're using the conical tipped edge finder, which is mounted in the milling machine chuck, and the tip of the edge finder engages at the center of the hole. Now we can see we're not lined up, but when we are lined up it will look and feel like one piece is there. And I'll reach in and I'll feel that. And it works in 2 directions, so we can see in the other direction. Nope, it's not lined up in that direction. And when you adjust one direction, you tend to mess up the other a little bit, so you have to readjust it a couple of times. But eventually it looks and feels like one piece, and it says that if we drill and tap a hole right there, it will be the correct place for the 6th mounting bolt. Now I'm spot drilling valve chest mounting hole number 6. And the center drill assures that the starting place is where we expect it to be, because the center drill drills a small spot, but it has a stiff body, so it will not wobble or bend, and it will go where we want it to go. Now we're drilling mounting hole number 6 with the tap drill, the number 38 tap drill, to prepare for a 540 thread. And the proper depth is marked with a piece of tape, which is wrapped tightly on the drill, and which I'll just drill in till I just touch that tape to get the right depth, and a consistent depth for all the studs. And there we've tap drilled valve chest mounting hole number 6 in preparation for cutting a 540 thread. Let's have a better look again at how we tap those 540 threads straight and true without breaking the tap, and how they always come out right. First off, I haven't moved the milling machine's position, so my milling machine chuck is directly above the tap hole that was just drilled. And I put a 1-inch tapping pin into the chuck that fits into a hole at the back of the tap handle to keep everything lined up. Now, we start with a pointed-ended, a taper-ended starting tap. And I put some cutting oil on that. And it gets lined up by the tapping pin. And then I tap the hole by hand, always feeling for it to stop or have a lot of pressure, because that means we're bottom, and if we force it after it's bottom, we're going to break the tap. So I have a handle for it, and that tapping pin keeps everything lined up and gets the thread to cut straight and true. And every now and then you advance the tapping pin a little bit because the tap advances. And then you feel, and when you can feel, you put a little pressure on it and you feel it springing back, and there's a certain feel that says, I'm at the bottom there. If I go anymore, I'll break that tap. So then we back off, and the tapping pin again keeps everything straight and true. After the 540 hole is partially threaded with the starting tap, and the conical point of the starting tap prevents it from tapping to the bottom of the hole. Well, after that's done, I clean out the chips with a pipe cleaner. I don't want those chips to prevent the bottoming tap from reaching the bottom. Next, I replace the conical tipped 540 starting tap with the square-ended 540 bottoming tap that can thread all the way to the bottom of the blind hole. And I'll put some cutting oil on it. Put it on the tapping pin. And then tap the hole, being very careful to note when I'm at the last couple of threads there, and that's what we're really cutting with the bottoming tap. And I'm going to use the handle, but but that, you can see that's at the bottom there. I can feel that flexing a little bit. So that's the bottom, and we've finished threading the last valve chest mounting hole. Now, just to show you how straight and true and well located those mounting studs are, using the methods I've shown you, we'll just sort of see that the part is free. And if any of those screws were tilted or in the wrong place or not in the center of hole, it would bind up. And the mounting holes are only a few thousandths bigger than the studs themselves. So that's what a good job you can do using the conical tipped edge finder and the alignment method for tapping and drilling that I've shown you. Let's have a close look at how the valve chest cover fits. Are those studs in the right place for the valve chest cover? Seems to be. Let's try something here. Let's turn this around. Oh, it looks like they're symmetrical too, because I can mount that valve chest cover that has mounting holes that are just slightly bigger than the studs, and I can mount it in either direction. And it just, like the valve chest, everything is in the middle of where it's supposed to be.